Hello. Today's video is about rejecting fashion trends. I know, fun topic. My name is Eleanor and I go by Radically for Jesus here on YouTube. I make videos to help Christian sisters in the realm of head covering, modest dress, homemaking, homeschooling, sewing, and occasionally other topics along vlog topics or something like that. I typically keep them within the realm of Titus 2. If you are interested in that in any way, please consider liking and subscribing. Today's topic is going to be about rejecting fashion trends. I did that a long time ago. I'd actually had an entire video done on this already, and I decided to scrap it because I wanted to change some stuff that I thought, you know what, I don't want people to think I'm being mean, for one, or irreverent or anything like that. And there were some things I neglected to mention. So we're doing take 2 of this. The thing that I probably would want to say first off is I avoid and don't pay any attention to branding. I don't care what a brand is. Now, that said, I do think quality can be important. I am seeing more and more, the older I get, how things do not last how they used to, and that if you buy something with a little better quality, that it can be very useful and you'll be money better spent. You can buy a high number of things of poor quality or a low number of things of high quality, and all in all, I think in the end you come out better putting your money into quality items that last you for longer. I think it's a little more responsible in the long run too. Now, sometimes people use brand as a marker for quality. I can't speak to that perfectly. I tend not to, just because I know that sometimes a brand may have a really great reputation and then slowly they go downhill trading on that reputation. It can go both ways, and you may find a certain brand is always of a good quality. But just use your judgment there. I don't buy a brand just because of its name typically. Now, I may give it a little more weight when I look at it. I may say, that's a brand that's usually pretty good. Let me check it out and make sure it's still of the same quality. So you may use it as a way to gain your attention or to narrow the search, but don't always rely on a certain brand being a high quality item, because it may not be. And never, in my opinion, is it worthwhile to wear a brand just for the sake of having a brand. I kind of think back to when I was a kid and everybody had the jeans with the triangle. Was it Palomino? It's Palomino, or I forget. It was all the kids had that as the fashion trend, and they had to have that brand. Why? The other jeans out there were just as good. To me, that was a silly kind of thing. I know a lot of us fell for that, and even though I didn't have those as a kid, I did want them, admittedly. But at the same turn, it's why buy something just to buy it, just to show off? I don't think there's any fruit in the showing off part. So I would encourage you to throw that particular thing off of the showing off. If you buy a brand, buy it for its quality, not for its ability to show off and show your neighbor what you have. I don't believe in keeping up with the Joneses, as the expression goes. I see no fruit in that. With that, I would say don't follow trends. Just because something has become popular doesn't mean it's a good thing. My mind first goes to things like the holes in the jeans or wearing your jeans halfway down your backside, stuff like that. I just don't see the good in those things. I do think it's good to be modest. I do think a simplicity in how you dress is a good thing. I'm not against a little bit of jewelry or a little bit of making yourself look nice, decent, and presentable, as long as someone isn't going into the land of being ostentatious. I think that crosses into territory we shouldn't go. Each person must decide what that is for themselves. I consider how I dress to be fairly simple and plain for the most part, and others may not. I do occasionally wear a necklace, and I do occasionally wear like an understated pair of very small earrings or something that like maybe my kids got me for a gift or something along that line. But I don't think that's wrong or bad, but you will never see me go invest in very expensive stuff either, just because I don't see a need or a fruit in doing it. sometimes you may have a husband buy a wife a very nice expensive necklace or something for a gift. And I think as long as she's not out there pushing for that, angling for that, or whatever, it's not a big deal. That's fine. You know, your husband is adorning you, not you adorning yourself. But I think we should never ever, as ladies, put a lot of pressure on our husbands to buy expensive things, be it clothes or jewelry. Jewelry is really just truly extra adornment. There's no need for it. Well, we do have our need for our clothing. So I do see one as a need and one as a want, so to speak. Excuse me. I think we need to be careful and just wise and thoughtful in what we do. I know some people are completely against all jewelry all the time, and I know why, and I know the scripture that is used to discuss that, so please don't bombard me in the comments on that particular point. I get it. I don't think a little bit is wrong though, but I do strongly encourage you not to go blow ridiculous amounts on both jewelry and clothing. Well, clothing is your need, and while a need for quality is a good thing, we must be reasonable. Certainly you could say, well, I spent more equaling quality. Yes, that is true, but only to a certain point. There is a point that crosses over into just ridiculous too. That is, you're paying for a high name, you're paying for that brand label, you're not just paying for quality. You can put enough into something that's quality to the point that you got a good solid piece that's going to last you as long as that type of piece could reasonably last you, but you don't need to overdo it for the sake of the name. And that follows certainly true with maybe a necklace or something like that as well. There's just no point in getting ridiculous with that stuff. Money could be used for better purposes. A little for being presentable is certainly fine though, at least in my opinion. I do think that, and the part of rejecting fashion, being a lady, and I have a whole video I just did on being a lady. Again, you may not have seen it yet, but it will be up if it's not already. I would say in our society, that is rejecting fashion. Being a lady is rejecting it, because if you're going to do the things, at least in my opinion, that I would define as ladylike, being extremely fashionable at the same time probably will not cross over into that very well. It might some. I imagine that there's some who can pull off being highly fashionable at the same time as still being truly ladylike, but I imagine that's few people that would do it. And I simply say that because I think a lot of fashionable clothes are not necessarily the most modest things. They're far more shape clinging and so forth. And it's because our definition of fashion has changed so much over the years. So those kinds of fashion trends I definitely reject. A beautiful, timeless type of classic, it might have been fashionable many years ago. No, that's a different matter. I think a lot of this is a little tricky to pin down because so many of these terms are very subjective. Like a lot of these things, and a lot of my videos I say that this is subjective, this is subjective. Well, a lot of things in life are. They're subjective based on your individual opinion and what you view the word as. What I view the word as lady and I view the word as fashionable, they just don't often intertwine. I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm just saying it's not common anymore. One of the biggest fashion things that I have personally rejected, and this one I struggle with, I won't lie. I want to be able to wear nicer things in this particular arena, and it's shoes. I wish I could wear the pretty dainty little like ballet flats and stuff like that to look a little nicer with my dresses. I feel like that looks a little more feminine, but my feet hurt easily. So I tend to wear tennis shoes with my dresses. I know that is a major rejection of all things fashion, and I really don't care. Ultimately, who are we dressing to please? Are we dressing to please ourselves or our neighbor or our husbands? What are we doing? I would encourage you, if you are married, to dress to please your husband. And most husbands usually care about their wife's comfort level, and they're not going to say, oh no, you have to wear high heels all the time. Most of them are a real lot nicer than that. Now, there might be a time and place where you really need a good dress shoe or something like that. Do the best you can, but I recommend don't wear a shoe just because society tells you you need that shoe to make yourself look better. I have not owned high heels in probably about 20 years, just guessing. I do not miss them, and I do not ever care to wear them again. They hurt your feet, and they actually can damage your feet in some cases. I have no intention of messing with those anymore. Now, if I could get my feet to a point that they were very comfortable in a pretty like ballet flat or something like that, I'd be fine with that. I think they're pretty, but I tend to just be a practical sort of person. The main two shoes I wear are New Balance tennis shoes. That is a brand I do tend to like. Generally, the quality is good, but I like them for one main reason. They have a very high arch, and that is why I have feet issues. My arch is very, very high. So if I could find a very feminine looking shoe that's practical but still looks pretty with dresses and had a very high arch, I'd think about that. But it has to be practical for me too. So shoes are an area I find tricky, but I do know that I definitely break all fashion rules when it comes to shoes. And it's one that I wish I could do a little bit better with and find a little more middle ground on, but ultimately comfort and feet win on that one. They just do. If you're able to wear a little nicer, prettier shoe, then more power to you. The next thing I wrote down about breaking fashion rules is less is more. Don't be afraid to have less items and rotate them, and reject the idea that we must have a different outfit or as many outfits as possible. Sometimes in our culture we think, oh, we have to have so many clothes that we can never wear the same outfit in the same week or something like that. And I would reject that. I mean, many years ago, people would wear the same thing every day, and then they might have a Sunday best, and then that day would be different. And how difficult that would be for laundry reasons, right? You just wouldn't be able to launder your clothes as frequently. Which is one point, we actually wear our clothes out when we wash them too often. So if you've not truly gotten something to where it needs laundered, then you might want to consider re-wearing it. I know that's probably shocking to some of you, and you probably think that's super gross, but oftentimes if we're wearing proper undergarments, our stuff's really not getting that dirty. If you, like, for example, my dresses, when I'm here at the house, I've got lots of undergarments, I've got a slip, I've got pantalettes on, and then over top of my dress I'll have an apron. I can totally re-wear that. Like, I've got the camisole and stuff under it. It's pretty easy to re-wear my dresses more than once. And I know there's a lot of people who will do stuff like that, and I don't think there's wrong in that. But I do feel like I have to almost be in the closet about it and be all secretive about it. And I shouldn't. So there's my confession. Now you know, sometimes I rewear my dresses. I don't think that's a bad thing. I also think and know that it makes them last a little bit longer. So that would be a fashion thing I would reject. Reject the urge for the consumerism that happens in our modern culture. We don't need to own 45 dresses or 45 different changes of clothes. A few is fine. Now, I am not a minimalist that has a very limited wardrobe, but I'm not against that either. There's several people I watch on YouTube, and they'll do things like the 10-item wardrobe and stuff, and I'm totally fine with that. I think that's okay. I think it's a good thing. I would like to get my wardrobe to the point that there are fewer things for laundry reasons, less to wash, and that when I'm making each new item, I'm putting a lot more effort into the quality. I didn't always do that. I would used to just try to speed through things to get them done, and they would be perfectly serviceable. But I've also tried to focus really hard to make sure my sewing is kicking off the top notch that I'm able to and capable of. It pushes you to learn your best too as a seamstress, so I'm trying to do the best that I can as both practice, but also just giving myself the best quality of clothing. My own clothing, one major factor that actually caused me thinking on a lot of this lately is last year my husband very kindly bought me a lot of fabric, and I mean it was like $250 worth of fabric one day at Hobby Lobby. He had bought that around my birthday, and he wanted me to make a bunch of new dresses because my dresses were looking really ratty. Well, our previous experience with a lot of the Joann's fabric was it wrinkled badly, shrank horribly, and just faded awful. It didn't hold up good for long. So I'm like, well, a couple of the pieces I've had from Hobby Lobby have done much, much better. So let's go with the Hobby Lobby fabric. We did that, and some of those pieces are wearing beautifully. They've not faded at all, and they rarely wrinkle, and that's lovely. I like those pieces, but quite a few of those even did it. So I think they have a mix in their quality. They got some really awesome quality, and then they have some that are like, I don't know if they're changing their stock. But of the type and brands that wore well, I would totally rebuy those. But I think next time I am going to buy, I don't know how to pronounce the name, Gaiman's Fabrics. I bought from them a few years ago, and I bought 3 things of fabric, but those lasted forever and looked beautiful and brand new for forever. And they sell like a tropical breeze stuff. So I'm thinking the next time I go to sit down and make dresses, I am going to buy from them, buy a bunch of tropical breezes, and get my dresses of those. To me, those were the best quality dress fabrics I had seen, and I'm going to use those because I feel like if I'm going to go through the effort to sew my dresses and sew them as best as I can, make my seams and everything as neat as I can, I want my fabrics to last. Because this last batch of dresses, there's a couple of them that still look great that are about 1 year old now, and then there's several that have just faded so bad and shrunk so much. They're nowhere near the same length that I made them, and that really annoys me. So I'm trying lately to focus on things of better quality and thinking about quality in the things that I do and the things that I buy, whether they're shoes, dresses, or whatever. But I know I'm harping a lot on quality in this video is about fashion, but it's all intertwined. I do think rejecting fashion for the sake of quality, focusing on that thing, is the core of what I wanted to talk about, so it fits. Fashion, I just don't see the point of following fashion for fashion's sake. I don't see why. Maybe that's my personality. Maybe you guys disagree. Maybe you guys want to share in the comments of your own thoughts and feelings on that. Please do. It's just not something I've ever been super into. I prefer dressing in the way that I find pretty, the things that cause a mood lift, because I don't know about you guys, but for me, there's certain things I wear in certain colors. I'm like, I feel happy when I wear that color. I like that color. Blue is my happy color. In case anybody has not noticed, I wear blue a lot. There's one family friend that thought I was required by my religion to wear blue because I wore it all the time. I'm like, no, I'm just guilty of wearing the color because I like blue. It is very much my happy color. And purple is, I like pink too. But it just depends. The colors that we wear certainly can change our moods, and we may be drawn to one versus another, or one style of an outfit that we may feel good, we may feel presentable and put together, and that's a good feeling to have. Through my life, I've certainly been guilty of dressing sloppy at times when I'm trying to do better and be more presentable, more ladylike, and be just decently dressed. I do not ever, I can't think of a time when I've really tried to follow fashion. I've just rejected that kind of thing for a long time. I know that I look religious and different and conservative and all these things in how I dress, and I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable with that. It is who I am. But no one's ever going to confuse me for someone following fashion. And that's okay. I'm good with that. But what I do want them to see is someone who's ladylike, someone who's neat and tidy, someone who's proper, and someone who's modest. And totally I'm fine with them seeing me as a person of faith. I want them to see those things when they see me and how I dress. So what are you trying to project in how you dress? Are you trying to project someone who's up on the latest trend or following this and never wearing white after Labor Day? Labor Day is coming up. You know, what are you doing with your fashion? Do you care about those rules? I could care less about whether it's a proper color for spring or proper for winter or whatever. I tend to like bright colors year round, but you know, there's nothing wrong with changing it. Maybe wearing the bright things through the summer and then switching out your clothes for the winter for a little darker. There can be practical reasons to do that too, but I don't do it just because it's the rule. Never been much into those kind of fashion rules. So anyway, I just wanted to offer some thoughts out there and encourage you guys, if you are wanting to dress in dresses all the time or dress more modestly or do these things, but you're like, how do I do that and still be fashionable? I encourage you to throw off that care about fashion. Focus more on quality, focus more on your modesty, and following God and following the Bible and how you dress, being pleasing to your husband. If you're a Christian believer, that is something that I think we should take as a very important thing to say, hey honey, what would you like? What do you find beautiful? Do you like this style? Do you not like this style? And so forth. Find what his wishes are, and if you know you're dressing to please him and he knows you're dressing to please him, you will both find a lot of joy from that too. You will make him feel special and you'll make him feel loved, and then you'll feel pretty in his eyes too. So there's things that I'll try to do to please my husband, and things that I avoid because I know it's a little trend that kind of maybe annoys him or irks him or something, so I just don't do that, and it's not a big deal. So all in all, I just wanted to encourage some thoughts on thinking differently about fashion and go for quality instead. You guys have a very blessed day.